Ask anyone who's played Dungeons & Dragons and they will tell you any single session of D&D is a beautiful, chaotic thing. A whole entire world opens up to you to be explored, and the only limit to what you can do in it is your own imagination. And maybe an unlucky dice roll. Or two. It's kind of hard to capture or explain the true feeling of a good D&D campaign without having experienced it yourself. The spirit of adventure that it fosters in a group of friends, the excitement of uncovering a secret or using your ingenuity to bypass an obstacle that, had things been even slightly different, might have proved impossible. The incredible ripple effect that can happen when a chance encounter, an offhand comment, or a random find can echo through time and be the very reason that you end up triumphing over your enemies and saving the world. And combat, the way that you can manipulate the environment, call upon your unique skills and abilities, and work together as a team to bring down the most powerful monsters, knowing that the tables can always turn in the blink of an eye. The reason D&D, and for that matter many other TTRPGs, are so special is that a lot of these moments happen totally organically. Or at least, that's what your GM would have you think. So you know that no two campaigns would ever be the same. And every experience that you and your party have is completely unique. That's why it's so hard to recreate the D&D experience in a video game, I think. How do you grant a player the kind of freedom that they can have in D&D? Where every conversation matters, where there's nowhere that you can't explore, and so many different paths that you can take to solve a problem. Well, just ask Larian Studios, because it seems like they've nailed it. Here's our spoiler-free Baldur's Gate 3 review. Oh, with a little caveat, however. We've only had the full release a few days before launch, so it is totally impossible to offer a review right now based on a full and complete playthrough of the game. But this review is still based on dozens of hours played, and with many, many more to come, because we're absolutely loving everything so far. But just so you know, take the rest of the review with all that in mind.
Sort of fight.
Starting a new game of Baldur's Gate 3 feels true to D&D from the moment it begins, because creating a character is a hugely overwhelming experience. In a good way. I mean, I challenge anyone coming into the game totally fresh to spend anything less than an hour simply going over all of their options in the character creation screen, fine-tuning their race, sub-race, class, subclass, background, appearance. It is ludicrously in-depth with over 40 subclass options alone. And these choices really do make a difference to your game. Who you are will completely change how others react to and treat you. And it will open up whole new dialogue options for you depending on what your skills are and where you come from. Of course, if the choices are too much, you can always pick one of the Origins characters. Those are pre-made characters who otherwise join you on your journey as party companions. The sheer replayability of Baldur's Gate 3 is apparent from the very beginning, as these very first choices have ripple effects throughout the entire game. And even if you were to play again with the same race, same class, choosing every single option just the same, rolling dice for certain outcomes, including ones you have no control over, like passive perception and insight, means that you're still guaranteed no two playthroughs will be the same. But look, multiple playthroughs are no good if the game isn't actually fun. So thankfully, Baldur's Gate 3 is an absolute triumph. The narrative premise, to begin with, is intriguing, it's stressful. Along with the rest of your party, you've been infected with a Mind Flayer tadpole, and as a result, are living on borrowed time and will become a Mind Flayer yourself, unless you can find a cure very soon. It's a really great way to bind the party right off the bat, while also pushing you forward to explore your options. Talk to folks you otherwise might not do, make uneasy alliances, and some morally grey decisions. You're free to do whatever and go wherever you like from the very beginning. And from there, everything you do or don't do will influence the path that you take through the game. Though all roads eventually lead, as you may have guessed, to a third and final act in Baldur's Gate. No matter which way you turn or what kind of character you choose to be though, the story always rises to meet you. And really, how there always seems to be an option for every random thing you can think of doing, how there always seems to be an interesting avenue to explore, is nothing short of amazing. As anyone who's dipped their toes into Baldur's Gate 3's early access offerings over the years, yes years, will tell you, the sheer amount of content here is wild. Have a conversation with that random rat. Get thrown in jail and sneak your way out. Seduce anyone and everyone at a party. There's something to explore in every direction, and you're encouraged to try it all. Whether you're successful or not is another matter. It could very easily feel like there's too much to explore at first, especially if you're not all that familiar with the Baldur's Gate series or D&D as a whole, or if you prefer to have a bit more guidance from your games. But everything here is designed to be accessible, and despite the narrative framing, you're under no real time pressure. So it's best to just relax, take your time, and explore every menu and system in depth. You'll be rewarded for doing so. Pressing I will take you to your inventory, and from there you can explore what is essentially your character sheet, along with those of your companions. And you can see their approval rating of you there too, which is important if you decide to pursue any romances with them. Here you can also manage your equipment and items, which to be honest can get a little fiddly as you move things between characters and line up junk to sell on. It's a little bit too easy to pick up something useful and then completely forget where you've put it, who's carrying it, or even that you have it at all. But I guess that's the price to pay to have such freedom to micromanage party members to your heart's content. There are certainly players who will come to Baldur's Gate 3 for the story who will be doing as little inventory management as possible, and there will also be those who just want to lose themselves in strategizing and min-maxing their way to victory via the turn-based combat. And the good news is, it's all very satisfying no matter what you prefer. The script and performances are incredibly good. So much of the enjoyment of a game like this rests on how much you buy into the people you meet and the relationships you forge, and all of your core party are intriguing in their own ways, with each of them hiding a dark secret that you may or may not coax out of them over the course of your time together. These performances make you look forward to long rests at camp where you can relax, unwind, slip into something a little bit sexier, and have a bit of a flirt. And it can be seriously flirty. Throw a party and a few drinks at the group and it's like a Christmas office do out there. Some of the options you have when chatting to people do make you blush, and that's before you have sex with them. But of course, it's not all about sex and romance. These are exceptionally well-constructed characters, and it's just really interesting to get to know them, see what makes them tick, and see how they react to your decisions in the world.
Oak Father preserve you, child. You're infected, aren't you? The Mind Flayer's spawn.
You sound a bit shaken, boss. Hang on while I find the key.
Let's talk about combat. Turn-based gameplay is simply not for everyone, and that is okay. But if you're the type of person that prefers a little bit more pace, then Baldur's Gate 3 is probably not for you. Fights here take time and careful planning, and even then, a bad dice roll can set you up for a TPK, and thus a swift reload from your last save. Which reminds us actually, even if you don't plan to save scum, you should get into the habit of pressing F5 to quick save all the time. You know, just in case something happens and a quick death suddenly finds you. But yes, combat takes a while. Just like in a tabletop campaign of D&D, when a fight is triggered, every character involved, including enemies, will roll initiative, which determines the order in which you get to attack. The outcome of this alone is enough to turn the tide of a battle, not counting instances where you can ambush foes or be surprised yourself. Then, everyone will take their turn to use movement, use their available actions and bonus actions, and then there are reactions such as opportunity attacks when an enemy decides to move out of your melee reach and vice versa. All of this takes a while, and if this is the kind of gameplay that you enjoy, as it is for me, then you're going to have so much fun. You have so many different skills, spells, and abilities at your disposal thanks to your party, and the game environment is also there to lend a hand if you're perceptive enough to take advantage of it. And we really recommend that you do. Baldur's Gate 3's combat can be really challenging. If you barrel around doing whatever you want all the time, there will be instances where you anger the wrong person and suddenly be thrown into a fight that you are extremely unlikely to win. But even aside from that, triggering a fight without properly planning, without fully resting, or without thinking of an approach beforehand, getting your characters to higher ground, for example, can lead to a very quick death. And I really think you want that. The high-risk/reward approach feels very Dungeons & Dragons, and it makes success feel all the more earned when it does eventually happen. But of course, if you're really clever, you can often avoid a fight altogether as well.
Still on my feet. possessing your mind, forcing you to love it.
Like we said at the start of this video, this is more like a review in progress because we've only had the full game for a few days prior to launch. The early hours of Baldur's Gate 3 have been explored quite extensively already, of course, thanks to its lengthy time in early access for the last few years. But it's a testament to how big and exciting this game feels that all of that available content really only seems to scratch the surface of the adventure that awaits. And it captures the spirit of D&D in that I'm thinking about it even when I'm not playing. I'm imagining what I might do with this spell or how I could approach this fortress from a different direction. Maybe with a bit of inspiration I can re-roll that persuasion check and that conversation could go differently. Has anyone tried chatting with that rat again? I think the community is going to have so much fun with this game for a long time to come. Sharing stories of what they did to approach certain problems, who they spoke to, who they romanced. I can see all the fan art already, and it's very exciting. And it's not to say that the game isn't totally without any problems. I mean, something of this size, it's obviously going to run into a few bugs, and we had some frame rate issues early on as well, but certainly nothing game breaking and nothing that we can't see being patched very, very soon. The greatest compliment that you can give a game based on the D&D 5e rule set, I think, is that it inspires imagination.
A hand? Anyone?
What could happen if I follow my gut and go down this path? What will my allies think of me if I do this? Could this absurd plan that I just had actually work? What about that dialogue option that I didn't pick? Where would that have led us? I want to play true to my character, but I'm already imagining what I could do with a different class in a future game, even while I imagine what lies ahead of us in this one. And I'm already super attached to my party, while knowing that they're hiding quite a few dark secrets from me. But there is no one right way to do everything. There can't be. All I can do is throw myself in, take a chance and roll the dice, and enjoy. It's beautiful chaos. It's D&D through and through. We will have loads more Baldur's Gate 3 videos on the way very soon as we continue to play through the game. We have tips, streams, and guides on the way as we speak, so subscribe if you haven't already to make sure you don't miss anything. Let us know what class and race combo you're planning on playing as well as who you have your eyes on to romance. I still haven't quite decided on that one myself. See you in Faerun, and thanks for watching. Bye!